Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode 327. It's going to be a great interview with one of my friends, Flavia Santos Lloyd. On various levels of practice management, developing your practice, as well as just knowing the law and all this kind of stuff. Powerhouse. So I'm really proud to have her on the show again. Speaking of having her on the show, we did a O1 seminar 2 years back. I have the long recording of it. I was going to release it for sale as a training course. Haven't got around to it, but for those interested, if we get enough people, we're going to merge and do a marriage green card course, which we already have, which is 10 plus hours of training, plus the O1 course, and put it to one and sell it as a sale special for one. If y'all reach out at info@immigration lawyers toolbox, you can get information about that. Just email me again at info@immigration lawyers toolbox to train yourself, your team, to get into the immigration field, both on a family-based and some employment-based. It's going to be a lot of help. Having said that, let's jump into it. None of it's intended to be individual legal guidance. Consult with an attorney. Flavia, thank you so much for coming on again.
And thank you for having me, John. It was a pleasure.
So yeah, one main reason I want to have you on is because you're head of the committee for the AILA Paralegal conference. Is coming up in Las Vegas. How soon is it coming up? It's like next month.
It's August 5th and August 6th in Las Vegas. I'm very excited about this because, some people don't know this, but I was a paralegal for 12 years before I became an attorney. So being chair of this conference is really bittersweet for me.
For sure.
So,
And let's
yeah.
jump into like a main question I want to ask is like, this is stuff you're going to talk about at the conference, but it's kind of hard doing training and stuff, especially when your scale, you're from at your level. How do you have a fast system to train people and they learn what's going on? Do you only hire people with experience, or do you get people from scratch?
I prefer people without experience. It's kind of odd because I can kind of mold them the way
Yeah.
I want them to learn.
Sure.
So sometimes when you have people with lots of experience, they have their ways of doing things, and while I can learn from them, which is always helpful, sometimes there are bad habits. So
Yeah.
I like the new folks, training from the ground up. But what I do is I use our intranet, because we use Google Suites. And part of Google Suites, we have the internet where I have trainings where we have monthly trainings, we have our wellness workshops, all that stuff is on the internet. So whenever we do a training like this week, Friday, I think we have like a no one training. So we have it live and then we save and we archive in our library. So when people want to, go back to a new form or like the ETA 9089 for perms,
Yeah.
then there's always a training available for them. And when we onboard people, we also have a system of what videos they need to watch
Hmm.
before they even think about start working.
Very cool. And how do you get them to watch it? You have like the marriage green card course to give it, and some people, after watching it, come up and ask us questions. Sometimes we're like, "Did you even watch the program? How did you miss that?" That's like a big one. How do you deal with how soon do you know if someone's a keeper or not? Like, I guess they say hire fast, fire fast. Well, do you have any policy on that?
This is a tough one because, my philosophy, I don't know where I read this, but it takes a year to fully onboard someone, to fully have someone, knowing your firm. But there are early signs, that something is not happening and people are not, acclimating well enough. So I'd rather fire sooner rather than later. But if it's someone who is just having a hard time adjusting, then I will give more of a chance because I do believe that it takes a whole year for someone to be fully on board. But to answer your question, how do we know that they watch the videos? One of the things we do is we track time. We
Yeah.
track time. They have, so I know what's going on. We don't use it in a punitive way, but we do monitor people's time and what they're spending time on. So that kind of way we can kind of, okay, they are spending, 7 hours to draft an NIW. We have a problem like the forms.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a problem. So it really helps to track the time and having the information that we kind of told them to do. But I'd rather
Yeah.
fire fast if I see that it's just not a fit.
Yeah, I've had the problem of taking too long sometimes, and like I remember we do like time
Don't we
tracking,
all?
but they don't look. I'm sorry.
Don't we all? I mean, don't we all? Like
Yeah,
sometimes it can be too long.
either too busy or you kind of want them to know. But one time I caught someone, it took them like 2 hours to do a G28. And they're like, I'm working on a form. And I look, I'm like, they're just sitting on a G28. It's obviously they're on their phone or something. Like, that's kind of disrespectful. It's like if you don't like the job, and it's really good work for immigration. It's not like crazy kind of work. So if you're like, you don't have enthusiasm what you're doing, probably for your own life, it's better you move on and find something like to do.
Absolutely. Um, You know that movie Office Space?
Yeah.
Have you watched it? So the guy that kept coming back, after he was fired. I
Yeah.
was so bad at firing people that the first person I fired, she kept coming to work 3 days after I fired her. Apparently, I the message didn't come across well. So hiring and firing is definitely not, those are not my strengths.
For sure.
It's a
I hear you.
constant in process, like developing, learning, and trying to. But I still, my claim to fame is I fired someone and the person came back to the office for 3 days and I didn't know what to say. So
Now, how big is the firm now? How many attorneys do you have?
we are at 12 attorneys and the rest support staff. So we are about 57, 58 right now.
Wow. And when it comes to managing the firm, do you have non-attorneys and like some key roles like CFOs or operations and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So what we did is I hired a consulting company to kind of help me restructure the firm because I felt that there was a funnel and I was the funnel.
Yeah.
So I implemented team leaders. So I have the paralegal team leader. I have the supervising attorney for the attorneys. And then in the back office, like this year, I decided not to grow more. What I decided to focus on is really building my back office. So I just recently hired a full-time HR director.
Nice.
So someone who's just there full time. I hired a CFO this year. So all I'm not expanding business wise because maybe there's a Trump administration out there. So
Yeah.
I don't want to overextend myself. But I also feel that working in my back office is the way to go so that way I
Yeah.
can work on retention, I can work on policies and all the things that when you're small doesn't really matter, but when you're growing it does matter, like celebrating people's birthdays. I'm terrible at that, so now there's a policy to celebrate people's birthdays, the stuff that actually matters to people.
Yeah. And like, how is it playing the hat as a lawyer as opposed to the business hat? I know you get, at least last time we talked, you get actively involved in cases and stuff, which I always surprised with the amount of work that you have. How do you balance that out, especially with your travel that you do?
I mean, I like working on cases, but I cannot, I don't do a high volume, but there's no way I can do because right now I would say that my time about, gosh, 60 to 70% of my time is being, managing the business.
Yeah.
Just before meeting with you, I was looking at our cyber security policy that needs updating. So, so I spend a lot of time on things that I don't love it, but I know it's necessary. I like practicing law and I like writing. I like the practice aspect of it, but because in that sense I'm a one-man show when it comes to administration. So that's where my time is now, 60 to 70% just being like the CEO, if you will.
Yeah.
And then I do the fun stuff, whether I'm writing or I'm planning conferences or I'm speaking or I'm writing, working on cases, which I
Did you
really love.
like when you launched your firm like in 2016 or 2018 around that time?
Yeah,
Did you think
2016,
this is
yes.
where you'd be? Like, is this they kind of just happen and you're going on the ride, or did you want to run a business and be a businesswoman like this?
No, no. The only reason why I quit the job that I had before is because I wanted to work less. I thought that I was going to open my business. I was going to practice a little bit and teach a little bit because I used to teach bar review.
Yeah,
The whole thing, I thought I was just going to be a teacher and part-time teaching, part-time lawyer. I never planned on, growing a business. I never planned working but for myself, honestly. I've always been an employer and I am that person, I stay 12 years in one place and then
yeah.
I stay 5 years in another place. So, I thought I would be employed somewhere for the rest of my life.
Wow. And so it's a big shift. I mean, as I'm growing and dealing with HR issues and that, I'm kind of like, I don't want to do this at all. So I'm like, I gotta,
Miserable.
yeah,
It's miserable. I have to talk to employment counsel, and it's so funny because we do flat fees, but we track time. But talking to employment counsel, for instance, it's like I don't want to talk to him; he's too expensive. I just want to send an email. So all this stuff that we just don't think about, when we are developing our business.
yeah. Well, what other? Because I know you're always speaking at different things. What other kind of conferences do you have coming up in the coming months?
I just have the August one now in Las Vegas, so the paralegal. So I don't have anything yet.
Wow, that's like the
So
first time I'm hearing you not because I always see you in Florida going here or going to Massachusetts. I was like, I just track you on LinkedIn going all over the country.
yeah, I was in Boston 2 days
There you
ago, and I'm in Orlando today, and I'm going home. So and it's the finding the balance is just something that's I think honestly between owning the business and practicing. The hardest is not that. The hardest is managing family time and the stuff that goes with it, and trying to find that balance. So it's just that's the struggle for me anyway, right
I
now.
I hear you definitely. Well, Lloyd, thanks for coming on again. Love to have you on the show and do some more programs with you. We're probably going to get another conference set up for the stuff we do, Toolbox, and love to have you on. I'll keep you posted on that.
Oh, I would love to. It was amazing, and I highly recommend. I was talking to one of the attendees 2 days ago,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I know it was nice because it was a nice small group, and we actually continued talking
Beautiful.
and connecting. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so
I
much,
appreciate
John.
it. Thank you so much. So, everyone, if someone's reach out to you, do you have social media to follow, or is there best email or they can contact?
Yeah, absolutely. I have it's at Santos Lloyd Law. That's my Instagram, and my email is really long. Is that a place I can type here? Let's see.
It's
Do I
underneath the
get?
name. I mean, a lot of people are going to listen to audio of this, but Flavia, just I guess if they search you, I'll find it Flavia, and then Santos has the sounds, and Lloyd with two L's. Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear
there's too many.
my, my last name too. I hear it's always the whole thing, but yeah, your names are easier, just longer. There's more pieces to it. Thanks so much.
Exactly.
You're back in town. I mean, you're in Orange County, so it's like we're never going to see each other. I'm in Woodland Hills, you're Orange County, so I'm glad we can do these Zoom, and then at conferences we can kind of catch up.
So good to see you, John. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.